The law of influence. The true measure of leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. What do leaders look like? Do they always look powerful, impressive, charismatic? And how do you measure the effectiveness of a leader? Can you put two people side by side and instantly tell which is the better leader? There are questions people have asked. These are questions people have asked for hundreds of years. One of the most effective leaders of the late 20th century was anything but impressive upon first appearance. When most people think of Mother Teresa, they envision a frail little woman dedicated to serving the poorest of the poor. That she was. But she was also a tremendous leader. I say that because she had an amazing amount of influence with others. And if you don't have influence, you will never be able to lead others. Small stature, big impact. Lucinda Varday, who worked with Mother Teresa on the book The Simple Path, described the nun as the quintessential energetic entrepreneur who had perceived a need and done something about it. Built an organization against all odds, formulated its constitution, and sent out branches all over their world. The organization Mother Teresa founded and led is called the Missionaries of Charity. While other vocational orders in the Catholic Church were declining, hers grew rapidly, reaching more than 4,000 members during her lifetime, not including numerous volunteers. Under her direction, her followers served in 25 countries on 5 continents. In Calcutta alone, she established a children's home, a center for people with leprosy, a home for people who were dying and destitute, and a home for people suffering with tuberculosis or mental disorders. That kind of organizational building can be accomplished only by a true leader. This little box. If you don't have influence, you will never be able to lead others. Mother Teresa's impact reached far beyond her immediate environment. People from all walks of life and from nations around the globe respected her, and when she spoke, people listened. Author and former presidential speechwriter Peggy Noonan wrote about a speech Mother Teresa gave at the National Prayer Breakfast in 1994. It illustrates her level of influence with others. Noonan observed, "The Washington establishment was there, plus a few thousand born-again Christians, Orthodox, Catholics, and Jews. Mother Teresa spoke of God, of love, of families. She said we must love one another, and care for one another. There were great purrs of agreement. But as the speech continued, it became more pointed. She spoke of unhappy parents in old people's homes who were hurt because they are forgotten. She asked, are we willing to give until it hurts in order to be with our families? Or do we put our own interests first?" The baby boomers in the audience began to shift their seats. And she continued, "I feel the greatest destroyer of peace today is abortion," she said, and told them why. In uncompromising terms, for about 1.3 seconds, there was silence. Then applause swept the room. But not everyone clapped. The President and First Lady, Bill and Hillary Clinton, the Vice President, and Mrs. Gore looked like seated statues at Madame Tussauds, moving not a muscle. Mother Teresa didn't stop there either. When she was finished, there was almost no one she hadn't offended. At that time, if just about any other person in the world had made those statements, people's reactions would have been openly hostile. They would have booed, jeered, or stormed out. But the speaker was Mother Teresa. She was probably the most respected person on the planet at the time, so everyone listened to what she had to say, even though many of them violently disagreed with it. In fact, every time that Mother Teresa spoke, people listened. Why? She was a real leader, and when the real leader speaks, people listen. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Leadership is not. Leadership is often misunderstood. When people hear that someone has an impressive title or an assigned leadership position, they assume that individual to be a leader. Sometimes that's true, but titles don't have much value when it comes to leading. True leadership cannot be awarded, appointed, or assigned. It comes only from influence that cannot be mandated. It must be earned. The only thing a title can buy is a little time, either to increase your level of influence with others or undermine it. 5 myths about leadership. There are plenty of misconceptions and myths that people embrace about leadership and leaders. Here are 5 common ones. Number 1, the management myth. A widespread misunderstanding is that leading and managing are one and the same. Up until a few years ago, books that claimed to be on leadership were often really about management. The main difference between the two is that leadership is about influencing people to follow, while management focuses on maintaining systems and processes. As former Chrysler chairman and CEO Lee Iacocca Riley commented, "Sometimes even the best manager is like the little boy with the big dog, waiting to see where the dog wants to go so that he can take him there. The best way to test whether a person can lead rather than just manage is to ask him to create positive change. Managers can maintain direction, but often they can't change it. Systems and processes can do only so much. To move people in a new direction, you need influence." Little box. The only thing a title can buy is a little more time, either to increase your level of influence with others or to undermine it. Number 2, the entrepreneur myth. Frequently, people assume that all entrepreneurs are leaders, but that's not always the case. Entrepreneurs are skilled at seeing opportunities and going after them. They see needs and understand how to meet them in a way that produces a profit, but not all of them are good with people. Many find it necessary to partner with someone skilled at the people part of the equation. If they can't influence people, they can't lead. Number 3, the knowledge myth. Sir Francis Bacon said, "Knowledge is power." If you believe power to be the essence of leadership, then you might naturally assume that those who possess knowledge and intelligence are therefore leaders. That isn't necessarily true. You can visit any major university and meet brilliant research scientists and philosophers whose ability to think is so high that it's off the charts, but whose ability to lead is so low that it doesn't even register on the charts. Neither IQ nor education necessarily equates to leadership. Number 4, the pioneer myth. Another misconception is that anyone who is out in front of the crowd is a leader, but being first isn't always the same as leading. For example, Sir Edmund Hillary was the first man to reach the summit of Mount Everest. Since his historic ascent in 1953, hundreds of people have followed him in achieving that feat, but that doesn't make Hillary a leader. He wasn't even the official leader on the expedition when he reached the summit part of the Commonwealth Trans-Antarctic Expedition. He was accompanying another leader, Sir Vivian Fuchs. To be a leader, a person has to not only be out front, but also have people intentionally coming behind him, following his lead and acting on his vision. Being a trendsetter is not the same as being a leader. Number 5, the position myth. As mentioned earlier, the greatest misunderstanding about leadership is that people think it's based on position, but it's not. Think about what happened several years ago at Cordiant, the advertising agency formerly known as Saatchi & Saatchi. In 1994, institutional investors of Saatchi & Saatchi forced the board of directors to dismiss Maurice Saatchi, the company's CEO. What was the result? Several executives followed him out. So did many of the company's largest accounts, including British Airways and Mars, the candy maker. Saatchi's influence was so great that his departure caused the company's stock to fall immediately from $8.58 to $4 per share. What happened is a result of the law of influence. Saatchi lost his title and position, but he continued to be the leader. Stanley Hufty affirmed, "It's not the position that makes the leader, it's the leader that makes the position." In the little box, once again, it's not the position that makes the leader. It's the leader that makes the position. Stanley Hufty. Who's the real leader? Many years ago, there was a game show on television called To Tell the Truth. Here's how it worked. At the opening of the show, 3 contestants claimed to be the same person. One of them was telling the truth. The other 2 were actors. A panel of celebrity judges took turns asking the 3 people questions, and when time was up, each panelist guessed which person was the real truth teller. Many times the actors bluffed well enough to fool the panelists and the members of the audience. When it comes to identifying a real leader, that task can be much easier. Don't listen to the claims of the person professing to be the leader. Don't examine his credentials. Don't check his title. Check his influence. The proof of leadership is found in the followers. I personally learned the law of influence when I accepted my first job out of college. I went in with all the right credentials. I had the proper college degree. I had a great deal of insight into the work because of the training given to me by my father. I possessed the position and title of leader in the organization. It made for a good-looking resume, but it didn't make me the real leader. At my first board meeting, I quickly found out who the real leader was. A farmer named Claude. When he spoke, people listened. When he made a suggestion, people respected it. When he led others, followed. I wanted to make an impact. If I wanted to make an impact, I would have to influence Claude. He in turn would influence everybody else. It was the law of influence at work. Little box. The proof of leadership is found in the followers.